Around 6 months ago, a colleague of mine at the Anatomy of Death Museum reached out with an incredible skeleton that came into his possession. So we are currently in the process of collaborating to get this skeleton from Michigan to New York City. After a long 10-hour road trip, we finally arrived in the Anatomy of Death Museum here. I'm so excited to finally be here. Todd's a good friend of mine, and I finally was able to make the trip down to be able to come see the space.
To honor what this piece is and the significance of it and the historical presence of it, the only place that this piece would do justice is the Bone Museum.
Over my entire career, I have never seen a skull this big before. We wanted to really take you through this process to be transparent about how we source our remains, as well as topics on restoration and bringing it on display at the Bone Museum.
People are sharing their stories, many for the first time feeling the ground beneath them shake. Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois. This 4.8 magnitude quake that hit this morning, authorities say their buildings are compromised, was one of the largest on the East Coast in the last century.
Hey everyone, it's been a month and a half since we returned back from Michigan. The team and I were in the process of setting up the new exhibition for the Gigantism skeleton. But unfortunately right now, in terms of the Bone Museum, we're in an extremely challenging time. As you guys can probably tell, I'm currently not in the museum. We've had extremely heavy rainfall the last couple of weeks here in Brooklyn, and water has started to seep through the foundation of the museum. The team and I quickly responded to the flooding, and we were able to cement the cracks in the foundation. But unfortunately, New York was affected by an earthquake, and in April, the museum catastrophically flooded. Right now, this is incredibly uncharted territory for the team and I. We had just opened in October and was just starting to get our footing and to gain momentum in the space. Previously, before the flood, we had spent months negotiating the skeleton and acquiring it for the Bone Museum, as well as planning the exhibits around it, and we were so excited to unveil this piece for the museum. And with the temporary closure of the museum, this is really extended when we plan to have this piece on display. The Bone Museum is currently self-funded. We're not backed by any large institution or governmental body. We fully survive off of general admission and the support of everyone watching. This has been incredibly devastating for the team because we had actually just gotten the last 3 cases built for the museum, and we actually took the team out to celebrate the completion of the last couple exhibits that we had planned. But subsequently, because of the flood, all of the cases have been fully destroyed, and we had to vacate the space. On the bright side, the team and I had a 4-hour response time from the moment that our water sensors went out, and we immediately went in and removed every single piece from the museum and was able to take it to a secondary storage location. So the bones are safe. Everyone watching at home, everything is okay and all of the bones are safe, but everything else is destroyed.
Including our spirits.
Yeah. Right now, we need to figure out if we want to stay in the space or not. I'm currently working with management in the building in order to find an equitable solution to fix the flooding problem, but right now it doesn't look like a simple fix. We need to redirect the water that's coming into the sub-basement, and that involves a lot of piping and a lot of construction. So we don't have an accurate time on when the museum can be reopened or even if the museum can be reopened. We've always stayed true to our mission of making osteology more accessible. We will rebuild bigger and better than ever. Currently, we don't have a timeline on when we will be reopened, but I want everyone to know at home that we're fighting hard to get the space rebuilt, and we cannot wait to unveil this Gigantism exhibit with you, hopefully in the near future. Hey everyone, we wanted to give an official update on the state of the Bone Museum. It has almost been 4 months since our last announcement. This really gave us an opportunity to rethink about how we were exhibiting pieces, and we wanted to improve our exhibits. The team and I persevered and pushed on, and we're really excited to announce that after 4.5 long months, that it does look like the repairs have held, and we are close to being able to reopen. Now you can see behind us Hugh, promptly named by the Anatomy of Death Museum, and after working with Masha for the last couple months, we finally have the display for you here. Here at the Bone Museum, we wanted to work on how we would display the skeleton with Gigantism, but early on through this process, we ran through a couple issues. Since the skeleton is not 100% complete, it didn't seamlessly come together and we weren't able to articulate it. So the team and I wanted to work together on how we best can display and describe what this condition is for you guys watching at home. Masha promptly worked on how we can visually compose the exhibits, and she also worked together on doing the digital reconstruction on the skeletons.
Because the skeleton was not complete, just laying it out piece by piece was not really visually compelling or as effective as having the full skeleton on display. So we had to troubleshoot a little bit. So this is the comparison between our giant and the Mutter giant. The Mutter giant is confirmed to be 7'6", so I was using him as one of the references for our hue. Of course, with gigantism, not everyone grows the same way. It is a rapid and disproportionate growth, but we can use the Mutter giant as a reference of certain proportions that could be similar among individuals with gigantism, as well as using references of skeletons from our personal collection that we know the measurements of, to also figure a normal proportion for someone of an average stature. So this right here is a to scale kind of piecemeal of our skeleton. I did that because I was bored, and then John saw it. He was like, "Oh, this is amazing. You should talk about your design process in this." My design process is that I was tired of tracing him.
We were able to find this 1/2 skeleton bone box. The individual that previously owned it wrote on every single bone Jenkins, so we assumed that Jenkins was the previous owner. And we found that it would be a great skeleton to compare and contrast the astronomical size difference of the gigantism skeleton versus an average human. So here it is. This is the exhibition on the skeleton with gigantism. And in each tier of the display, we compare and contrast the skulls here with the gigantism skull and the skull of Jenkins, as well as the femur and the pelvis for both skeletons comparatively. We want to elevate all the ones with gigantism, and on the bottom rungs, you can see the regular skeleton. So you're able to compare and contrast the two different sizes for every single bone in the body.
The reason we chose the Jenkins skeleton in particular is, as we found out later, it is exactly 2 feet shorter than our giant.
As we were really looking at the skull, the condition of gigantism is so unique, we wanted to focus on different aspects of the skeleton itself. For example, one portion of gigantism creates an elongation of certain features. So we did one plaque, and Masha was able to design a plaque that compared and contrasted a regular skull versus a skull with gigantism.
Now, there were some really key bones missing from the skeleton, including the tibia, fibula, humerus, and also the entire cervical region of the spine. So figuring out the height for the skeleton was not an easy task. We also took the opportunity to make this chart here that basically just shows the bones that we do and do not have in our possession. So you could see here that we are missing the entire cervical region, so about 7 to 8 vertebrae. We're also missing both humeri. We're missing one of the femurs. We're also missing both tibia and fibulas. And I didn't mark them here, but we are missing like the couple very, very last end digits of the toes. Another thing we had to take into consideration when calculating the height is the intervertebral discs. Intervertebral discs are just kind of jelly-filled cushions between your vertebrae so they don't rub together. But obviously those can't be preserved in skeletal preparations, and because this skeleton was not complete, it didn't have the synthetic intervertebral discs that full skeletons typically come with. So the thickness of various intervertebral discs is different depending on the region of the spine that they're from, and they vary anywhere between 17 to 4 millimeters. When you actually add them up all together for each vertebrae, it adds a significant amount to a person's height. But yeah, you can kind of see side by side here that the intervertebral discs also help give form to the spine. This took me about 4 hours to make because I had to draw each individual bone separately, including each individual vertebrae and each individual disc. Usually when approximating height using just miscellaneous bones, there are certain equations that would be used. But because a person with gigantism grows very quickly and disproportionately, those equations are not applicable in this situation. So we had to do a lot of math and a lot of imaging in order to estimate the height.
Visually, it was such an important skeleton. I really wanted to reiterate for everyone watching at home that there are only 4 skeletons with gigantism on display in the world. The Silly Lad Anatomical Museum has one, the Hunterian Museum Museum has the Irish Giant, but it was since removed from public display, as well as the Mütter Museum and the Mütter Giant. But here at the Bone Museum, our Gigantism skeleton is one of only 4. We really wanted to highlight the stark contrast of this giant skeleton, but since currently the skeleton is incomplete, this visual design and representation through the banner really helped guests visualize how large this individual would have been. Here at the Bone Museum, we're still trying to track down the rest of the skeleton, and we have an idea of where the rest of the bones are. So while we're in the process of acquiring the rest of the skeleton, we wanted to display it to the best of our ability.
Now the hand and foot also came disarticulated, but we really wanted to show the comparison between the hands and feet of the person with gigantism and just the average individual Jenkins. So we found a non-invasive way to actually articulate the hand and foot, and we were able to put it on display.
It is ginormous. Like, the calcaneus is so big. I've never seen such a large foot bone in my life. Yeah, so we're 6 months post-flood now. It was brutal, but the team persevered and we survived. We really wanted to come back bigger and better than ever. When we first got this skeleton, we planned for it to be a solar exhibit so more people would be interested in coming to the museum. But since we subsequently flooded shortly after acquiring this skeleton, we've almost kept it hidden from public view for 6 months, and it's so exciting to finally be able to get to unveil it. In preparation for the grand reopening after the flood, we wanted the Gigantism exhibit to really be the main feature and the main staple for this museum. So our graphic designer, Nicholas, also made a hilarious poster that really represented how the last 6 months has felt for us. Masha and I have always worked side by side, and she came down with me to Michigan to come get the skeleton, so we really worked hard together to be able to unveil it for you guys watching at home. We could not have done the illustrations without her. It really takes a combination of understanding of the exhibit and the piece itself, as well as graphic design. So this perfect nexus coming together really made for an amazing exhibit. So hopefully when unveiling this skeleton, people would come and marvel at really how rare and unique of a specimen this is. So through there, this is going to be the big staple of the reopening, and we're really excited to show this to everyone watching at home, as well as for the people that come down to the museum. Here at the beginning, we've always had a deep appreciation and love for bones, and I wanted to really share that love for osteology to other people and give other people the ability to study, appreciate, and love bones where I didn't have that as a kid. Bringing people down together to celebrate this history, to learn more about this history. And also, we are so proud to announce our exhibit on Gigantism. We were finally able to do it for the reopening. It really takes a village in order to make something like this happen, and we couldn't do it also without everyone here in this room to come help us celebrate today. So once again, thank you all for making it down, and now we're gonna officially open the museum. Thank you so much. Okay everyone, we had just finished the grand opening event and we did it. It was such an incredible turnout. We have over 100 people that came and showed up to show their support for the museum. And it was incredible seeing everyone so passionate about the museum and about all the pieces here and sharing their love for osteology. This has truly been a historic year for us. I was so excited to unveil this skeleton for the museum, but we really had to hold our tongue and wait because of the museum closure. So finally being able to do a double whammy of the Gigantism exhibit and the grand reopening of the museum, it was such an honor to have this piece in the museum. And thank you so much for supporting us on our journey here at the Bone Museum. Our goal has always been to make osteology more accessible and to destigmatize a stigmatized industry. We really want people to be able to come into the museum and learn more about this history, the tensions behind it, and allowing them to make their own informed decision. This Gigantism exhibit ended up becoming so much more and such a symbolic aspect of the resilience and tenacity of the museum, and it really filled me with joy to see so many people passionate about this history and wanting to learn more. So it was truly a successful night. Now that the Bone Museum is officially rebuilt, we want to be more consistent on the content we produce, so make sure to like and subscribe for more. And if you want to come visit the museum in Brooklyn, New York, you can find tickets in the link in our bio, or just show up and buy tickets at the front desk. And we really can't wait to show you more.